Shalom Africa, brothers and sisters. My name is Dr. Rabbi Yitzhak Shapira, and I would like to tell you about a prophetic end times event that takes place in Africa, in specific in Zimbabwe, in the appointed times according to the feast and festivals of the Lord. During Passover this year, the time when we're telling the story of Exodus, of coming out of Egypt, we have decided, in partnership with Higher Life Foundation, to put a 3 days prophetic event, a call to the remnant. It is a calling to Africa to arise and shine. From April 22nd to April 24th, for 3 days, we're going to deal with the critical question of the last days. Are you the remnant? What does the remnant looks like? Who is qualified to be the remnant? And what do we have to do to fulfill the calling of the remnant in the last days? So although we see wars and rumors of wars and earthquakes, today, this is the time, this is the season for the remnant. So on April 22nd, Friday night, just as the Sabbath start, we will enter the Sabbath together with a prophetic Passover meal, when we will take you through the entire story of the Passover with the messianic implications for us today. After all, the prophet Micah told us that the future coming of the Lord resembles the first Passover. So we will go through this together on Friday night as we looking to understand the things ahead. On Saturday morning, together with variety of speakers like Pastor Matt McKeown, Pastor Juanita Weiss, and others from Zimbabwe, you will hear and understand the calling of the remnant in these last days. In addition, we are planning to read the Torah, the oracles of God from Zimbabwe to the world on Saturday. Now on Sunday, we are excited to announce that my new book, The Rivka Remnant, will be released in Africa, in Zimbabwe. I will teach a mini course on the identity of the remnant and the church in the last days. We invite you to be part of this. And although seating is limited for this event, the event will be broadcasted worldwide, but registration is required. So please go to the website on your screen now and register and be part of this move of God to raise up the remnant in these last days. Let us prepare for the days ahead by clothing ourselves with the clothes of the remnant. We're looking forward to seeing you in Harare and all over the world in this prophetic broadcast. God bless you, and shalom everybody. Shalom everybody, and Chag Pesach Sameach. My name is Dr. Rabbi Yitzhak Shapira, and I'm so excited that you're tuning in today to a very special episode of called Dichfin, welcoming all of you who are hungry to come and listen to the Geulah. As you can probably notice, I am not in the studio today, not even close to it. I'm actually speaking to you right now from London. I'm en route to a prophetic weekend, a prophetic week called Call to the Remnant. Remnant 2022 is a prophetic event that is taking place in Zimbabwe with the release of the Rivka Remnant in Africa. I would appreciate your prayers very much as we're going forward in Operation Kiruv working on reconciliation with the entire house of Israel and those who want to join in. If you want to learn more, go to remnant2022.com. It's free of charge. This weekend will be prophetic. Now, I want to remind you that if you have not read the Rivka Remnant yet, make sure that you get this book in your hands as soon as possible. Secondly, we're still raising the funds for Operation Kiruv. Friend, every day count, every giving count, every support count. The work is great, and your prayers carrying us, and your financial support also tremendously important. So please continue to support it. We are committed to you 100% of the time, and we want to continue to shower you with blessing. And tonight we have a very important blessing to you. It is Pastor Matt McKeown, who is going to be teaching you -10. That is going to be the message today. -10. You don't want to miss it. Don't miss it. Listen carefully to Pastor Matt McKeown, and he is giving us this prophetic end-time message. I'll be back after that with the counting of the Omer. Don't forget to hit share and like. Serving so many capacities in this organization, and I want to list a few of them to you because a lot of you don't know what he does. So let me try. Matt, I'm forgetting a few of the jobs, but his regular normal job is he's the senior pastor of UBIC. His father, after serving how many years? It's 32 years, finally decided it's time to pass it to Pastor Matt. So Pastor Matt is now serve in this great capacity. On top of that, he running a music full recording music studio that just does an incredible things, not just in the religious world, but actually doing a lot of stuff in the non-religious, meaning secular world. And use it as an amazing, I mean, some of the things that they're doing, there's even like, they did like NFL promos and Law and Order and a lot of cool things. So he's running the studio. Now, on top of it, he serves as the official counselor and the pastor of Yeshivat Shuvu. Well, what does that mean? It means if somebody have a problem of pastoral nature, usually the first place they go to is to Pastor Matt. So he is serving in this capacity, and I know you have been ministering to so many people. Guess what? Even people in ministry need help and need the support. And that's just reality. Sometimes we need even a lot more than the average person because what we endure. So you are serving in this counselor in Yeshivat Shuvu. The other thing that Pastor Matt has done, he put together over the last few years a program that became very popular. It's called the Kosher Pastor Program. Now, because it became so popular, we decided, forget it, we're going to make it year one requirement for anybody who wants to learn with us. So More Matan spent a lot of time in Israel with a man named Eldad Kainan. I did a course, 4 courses actually, I believe, in Israel, 2 or 4 courses in Israel, in Jerusalem, in the Galilee, and one on history. One of the most amazing courses with Eldad Kainan. And Matt is now, I've had the chance to see this program translated to 7 different languages. And we're seeing the growth of this thing even to these days. We're about to launch the program very soon. The 2 big things that are coming are the launching of this program, which is Shuvu Year Aleph. Number 1 in Indonesian, which the language called Basha. We just finished the translation. It took about 3.5 years to translate it. We got it done, Baruch Hashem. And the other thing is in French. We are going to go to Paris and try some croissants and butter.
When you say weed, do I get to I need the croissant.
Yeah. So Pastor Matt is also the other job that he has. You're getting tired yet? He's also the managing director of our education department in Shuvu, Africa. And actually, Shuvu Africa is the fastest growing branch of Yeshivat Shuvu right now. We have about 300 students in Africa. And Pastor Matt now for the last few years has been faithfully teaching. Every Tuesday there is a live Shiurei Torah that's taking place with Africa. And it's just growing and growing and growing. And actually in 2 weeks, Pastor Matt and also Pastor Juanita, she's serving in this apostolic role to Africa, and myself are going to be there. We're going to be there in Pesach. There is an amazing seder that is taking place, and a conference called A Call to the Remnant. It's a Call to the Remnant conference that is taking place in Africa. So Matt is managing all of that. And most importantly, for all of us, Matt has been just a real stakeholder on the work. I can say, out of that, Shuvu wouldn't be the same without Pastor Matt. Now he quit on us too, I must admit, like Dr. Wheeler, but the prodigal son found his way back a couple of years ago, and ever since then, it's just been the sky is the limit. Now, with all of this, I am really asking you to remember Pastor Matt is managing a church as a senior pastor is a big deal. It's not a small place, it's a big place. They also run a school, I believe, K1 to 12. So he is doing like so many jobs. And by the way, I forgot one more job he's doing. Every music production coming through Yeshivat Shuvu is going through Pastor Matt. And one of the projects that we are working on now is, as you know, our annual conference is going to come, the big one, the international. We're going to produce some albums. We're looking to getting Matovu into the studio. We're looking to producing some incredible thing with Dominican Republic, with the folks from the Dominican Republic, and start recording some real worship albums, liturgic albums, continue to do more music projects. So Pastor Matt, Sound Mind Studio is the headquarters for all this production. So now I'm exhausted thinking about all of those jobs. And I just want to say thank you, Pastor Matt, for not quitting and taking the mantle that God has upon the nations, upon yourself, in restoring the nations back to the house of Israel. Let's give a very special welcome to More Matan.
Thank you, Rabbi. Rabbi, you forgot Shuvu Yeladim, which I have to mention. I got Rabbi's permission in January 2017. I got Rabbi's permission to take some of the deeper things from Yeshivat Shuvu and to put them through a filter where Christians could understand. And we tried to think of what to call it. We decided on kosher pastor because it was the only thing that we could think of to describe what I was. Because I'm not Jewish, I'm not a rabbi, I'm a pastor, but I'm kind of Jewy a little bit. So we decided on kosher pastor. Kosher pastor was not a part of Yeshivat Shuvu for a few years. I just had the rabbi's blessing to start it. I was doing it completely on my own. He was not interested until at our conference in Orlando a couple of years later, a small puppet shark came out of my backpack, and I was just trying to make people laugh, during a break, and he flipped out and said, "We've been wanting to do something for children for a long time. The Rebbitzin has had this on our heart. We've got to do this. I got to have this shark, whatever." And, I'm kind of thinking, what am I, chopped liver, but so I kind of made him a little deal. I said, okay, we'll do Shuvu Yeladim if you consider kosher pastor. So I kind of bribed the rabbi with that. And also, oh dear, he's looking at me now. And not only did I quit the yeshiva a couple times, I was kicked out a couple of times, and I had to apologize to the rabbi in Rebbitzin earlier today, in all seriousness, because I was almost kicked out last week. So, but thanks be to God, I'm still here. I also am a worship leader and part-time cantor at a local Messianic synagogue just outside my town, and I also spend about 10 hours a week with a band from the local Reform synagogue, and I help them out with worship a couple of times a month on their Kabbalat Shabbat service. They know who I am and what I believe, and they've accepted me with open arms. In my time with you tonight, I want to tell you, I want to bring it down a little more to a ground level. We've had some amazing teaching, and one of the things that Rabbi Bernstein said about our panel is that maybe we get so excited about the heady discussions that sometimes we forget we're flying over the heads of people that might be new to this. And so what I want to do in my message that I've entitled -10, I want to take this concept from the Rivka Remnant that made my brain explode. I had a tremendous opportunity to read the Rivka Remnant before it was printed, at least a large portion of it, because Rabbi gave me a very distinct honor of writing the foreword. I've never written a foreword to a book before, and it was something I took very seriously. And so around the end of last year and the beginning of this year, I was really just pouring through this, and I said, and I said it publicly, and it's in my statement, and I stand by it, that I think the Rivka Remnant is the most important book to come out in the modern Messianic Jewish movement yet. I honestly believe that is the case. Mostly because people like me are spoken about in there. About how we can, it is the first book that I've seen. Normally what we see in the modern Messianic Jewish movement is people that call themselves Messianic Jewish are really just kind of Christian with a little bit of Hebrew, and I'm not interested in that. I have a church. I pastor a church. If I want a church, I'll go to my own place on Sunday. I want an authentic Jewish experience. And I too, I think it was Ben that was mentioning, I went to other yeshivas or whatever. I spent, at least not quite a year, but several months in a different yeshiva. And it was not at all what I wanted. It felt like Christian Bible school to me. And I was like, I did that. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I want something Jewish, something that tastes Jewish. And when I saw Rabbi Shapira talk about this yeshiva, I was so excited, and it's what we need. So unfortunately, the spectrum goes like this. Either in modern Messianic Judaism, it's more like it's just kind of Christians wearing a kippah, or it is so the other way that it's like, this just fits. You know what I mean? It's Goldilocks. It's just right for me. And as frustrating as it can be to be encouraged to do better and to do more and to go higher, in our humanness that hurts. But it is so important that we do that. So I want to bring this down in my time tonight, down to a much more basic level, because I want to speak to people that may be watching, or maybe even are in this room, that don't know much Hebrew, that you're where I was years ago, that maybe you grew up in a Christian household and you're full of Christian doctrine and theology, and all of a sudden you start hearing some things, and you're like, wait a minute, have we been confused for the last couple of thousand years? So I want to kind of break it down. And so first, I want to tell you a story that perhaps you already know, but sometimes it's good to be reminded. You see, there was a family that started out very small, and they didn't really have a place of their own. They had to leave where they were and go to a new place. And they were there for a while, but then the family was broken into different tribes, and they had to go a bunch of other places. And they didn't have a country or a land of their own or a leader. They didn't have a king forever. And of course, the people that I'm talking about is Clan McKeown in the Scottish Highlands. Clan McKeown, that the oldest record that we have is in the 1400s in the Highlands of Scotland, where We lost our identity. We lost our land, our title, and our castle. There are many different legends on why we lost it. One of the legends was, the one that had been passed down for generations in my family, what I knew is that we lost our castle and our land because of drunken gambling debts. That's what was told to us. That we lost a bet to the Campbell clan. And the story goes like this. This is actually one of the legends of my family. It's what I knew from growing up. That our ancestor Swain McKeown was the chieftain of the clan at that time, and he had a real drinking problem, and he liked to make these rash bets and these rash vows. The Bible warns against that. And he bet, so the story goes, that one of his pigs could jump over his castle. And he said, if one of my pigs can't jump over this castle, you can have it. That was the story I knew until this morning. That's the story I knew until this morning. And I was talking with Rabbi Jonathan Elowitz, and I showed him the cover of a book that I accidentally stumbled upon today in Google, looking for something else. When somebody, I forget who mentioned Shnei Luchot Habrit this morning? Okay, Ben. You said it, and I'm like, man, I remember Elitzur doing like a year of teaching on that. I'm like, I gotta get these books. And it's out of print and this and that. They had a 3-volume set for $785. And I'm like, let me skip that. And then I found this book that I had never heard of before. I accidentally stumbled upon it. Rabbi Jonathan Elowitz knows it well. It's called When Scotland Was Jewish. Here's what I found out. The Campbells are Jews that came into Scotland. I didn't know that. And in reading a little bit of this book and then some subsequent articles, I found out that the word was gave, that talked about our land and our castle, that we gave it to the Campbells. There was no talking of pigs or alcohol or rash vows. It was very strange to me. What do you mean my people gave our land and our castle to Jews? To Scottish Jews. I didn't know the Campbells were Jewish. I didn't know that. It's spelled out very explicitly in this book. It's crazy. Why do I bring this up? We had a heritage in our homeland as Scots. And after we didn't have land anymore, we moved into Ireland, and the spelling of our name changed and all that kind of stuff. We were what's known as a broken clan. But last year, for the first time since 1492, which is the year of the death of my ancestor Swain McKeown, the last chieftain of the McKeown clan. It's kind of an important year, 1492. Mysteriously, around this time, we gave land to the Campbells. I don't know why. I'm going to keep exploring. It's very interesting. But we didn't have a chieftain until last year, when a man named John McKeown was elected by remaining members of the clan McKeown to be our chief. So we have a leader again in Scotland. It's very interesting. Now, our clan badge, our crest, is a stump that's been cut off and there are shoots coming out of it. Very biblical. But what's interesting is, let me read you some of this that I just learned this today. This was not part of my message. I just learned it today. Despite being one of the ancient clans, there are few authentic records of McKeown heritage because there are so many different spellings of the name. Now, the McKeown motto is Reveresco. Now, because of Torah, I don't have any tattoos, but I'm the only one of my brothers that doesn't have tattoos. Each of my other brothers has a giant family crest of a stump cut off with shoots coming out of it with the word Reveresco. I grow strong again. It was so interesting to me that my Gentile family is mirroring Israel. They were cut off, but it's sprouting up again. There's a resurrection happening. It's very interesting. And by the way, I didn't know this until today. People in the past were notoriously careless with the spelling of McKeown because it's an old Gaelic word. And so you have to kind of anglicize it in weird ways. And so some people spell it McKeown, McEwen. It's kind of like Ewan McGregor, only there's a Mick in front of it, right? Now, here's what's interesting. The motto of Clan McKeown is Reverisco, which means literally green growth, but it means I grow strong again. But perhaps it's strange that an oak tree is used on our family crest because the name McKeown comes from the Gaelic word McKeown, meaning born of the yew tree, also called Jew tree. Wow. My family is not Jewish. So why are we called born of the Jew tree? I don't know. I found out today that our castle went to a Jewish family. Listen, God bless him. I don't know if the dude was drunk and talking about pigs or he had a heart for Israel. I don't know. I don't care. But apparently the Campbells got our castle and they were Jewish. It means a lot to me. We gave up our identity. We were a broken clan. We don't have an identity anymore. We were adopted by the McLaughlins because we didn't have anywhere to go. In giving our castle to Jews, we lost the right to live there. My family gave up their home for Jews. And I couldn't be prouder to be a Scotch-Irish man today than, that's like the coolest thing ever. That's awesome. Now, why do I bring this up about heritage and how we lost our heritage? We gave it up. If the drunken gambling story is true, we took our heritage for granted. We spurned our birthright. So what does that have to do with this -10? As you know, in the Rivka Remnant, if you haven't read this book and if you haven't bought 5 copies, shame on you. Buy it and give it to people. Give it away. I'm one of those people that always buys at least 2 copies of Rabbi Shapira's book, at least 1 hard copy and 1 e-copy. Have to. I make myself little lessons about Rabbi's books. I go in Apple Books and I highlight and I make pretend papers that aren't going to be turned in anywhere, just for me, just because I want to put this all together. But in the Rivka Remnant that we learned that Esav can be spelled 2 different ways. One way with a yod and one without. Now, in the scripture, the name Esav is never written with the yod. It's always missing the yod. And why is this significant? Now, if you've read the Rivka Remnant, I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know, but I just want to give you this basic thing that you can take back to your family, because you may be like me. I am the only person in my family that practices Messianic Judaism. My kids and wife used to come to the synagogue with me when, a few years back. But about 4 years ago, they kind of quit coming as my life got to be more and more intense. They are good Christian people, don't get me wrong. And they love the Jewish people. They love Israel. We don't believe in replacement theology. But being in a yeshiva under an Israeli Jewish rabbi can sometimes create awkwardness in your family. When my family's favorite day of the year is Christmas and Rabbi Shapira puts out a public thing about Christmas trees, that was tough. I agree with Rabbi Shapira, but I also have people that love trees with little balls on them, It's just a thing. We're missing the yod. Why have I titled this -10? Because as Rabbi Shapira points out to us, the yod is equivalent to 10. So the name of Esav can be looked at as it's missing 10. It's missing a yod, so it's missing 10. What's the 10 that it's missing? Well, we know that Esav in Judaism represents Christianity. Christianity is missing a yod. Christianity is missing 10. What does Rabbi Shapira tell us in the Rivka Remnant that is? That yod, that 10 is the 10 commandments. Christianity is missing the Torah. And it has been. And one of the reasons that I'm so excited whenever Rabbi hints that maybe someday before Yeshua returns, that he's leaning more and more to making some sort of way that those of us from the nations can come in and be a part, because it's very weird to not know what you are, or to not be able to tell people what you are. I was telling this to Rabbi Jonathan during the break. If I were to write down on paper what I do in the practice of my religion, and I gave it to you, you would not say, that's a Christian. You wouldn't. You would not call me a Christian. Jews certainly wouldn't. Christians certainly wouldn't. Dude, you're so under the law. What is going on here? What do you mean you do Sabbath? I am the only person that I know of in the entire Reform synagogue that eats kosher. And I'm a Gentile. It's weird. So to the Jews, I'm a little bit off, at least some of the ones that I hang out with, the more liberal ones, the more reform ones, they think I'm a little weird. And the Christians I hang out with, they really think I'm weird. But I don't think that I should be jumping ship. I'm not criticizing any of you in here that were Christians and you left the church. I'm not. Please, I'm not coming against you. Sometimes I wish I could. I can't. Somebody's got to stay and teach them. Somebody's got to tell them about the missing yod. Somebody's got to tell them that, hey, I want to invite you to what Rabbi Shapira, maybe controversially, in his new book called Jewish Christianity. Oh, it was so cool. You have no idea what it did to my heart for Rabbi Shapira to say, I'm not bashing Christianity. There will be a remnant in Christianity. That made my heart sore, because usually it's, on the one hand, in the Messianic movement, well, we just need to be Christians. And on the other part of it is just, there's nothing good about Christianity. There's no sparks to be redeemed from it. When Rabbi Shapira said there were sparks of Kedusha inside of Christianity that need to be redeemed, I cried. Because I'm tired of being bashed by one group of people for loving Yeshua, and then bashed by the other group of people for loving the Torah. And then you go, what am I? When anybody asks me what I am, if they see the Star of David or whatever, they go, what are you? I always say, I'm a religious platypus. I've got a beaver tail and a duck beak. That's what I am. I'm a mammal that lays eggs. I'm a kosher pastor. That's what I am. So my question in closing is, when we talk about these things, are we just bashing the church? No. We must help Christians release the concealed spark of holiness contained within. That's a direct quote from the Rivka Remnant. And that's why I think it's the best book ever written in Messianic Judaism. How about this? This comes from there too. So that they, Jacob, they possess the remnant of Edom and all the nations once attached to my name. I will return with them, the return of my people. They shall rebuild the ruined cities and inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards and drink their wine. They shall till gardens and eat their fruits. Wow. Who is this talking about? Esau needs to be rectified. Esau doesn't need to be divorced from. Esau doesn't need to be put away. There was a time that Rabbi Shapira told me, and I've heard him tell other people too, that are pastors like myself and Dr. Doug Wheeler, that have said, you know what, the world needs Pastor Matt right now. I'm very comfortable in this room being Moreh Matan. I'm very comfortable with it. But sometimes the world needs Pastor Matt. Sometimes the world needs someone who understands Christianity and its language and its tradition, and to try to break it down in a way that they can understand. You telling people that they need to keep the Sabbath when God doesn't even tell them that they need to if they're Gentile is not the way to go. If you're a Gentile, you're not obligated, but boy, are you invited. And boy, does that feel good. It feels good to have a home. You know, when your land and castle are given away and you have to go over into Ireland with those weird potato eaters. Got to give up your haggis and say top of the morning to you and whatever else. It's good to be adopted. When we gave up our land and our identity, we're adopted by the McLaughlin clan. And thank God and praise be to his name that people like me, who are from Scotland and Ireland, can be adopted into Israel. What an amazing thing. So, Esav needs to be rectified. We cannot stand back and let Esav be a wild animal. That's what it says in the Rivka Remnant. If Esav doesn't get rectified, he turns into a wild animal, just out there living by his flesh. We've got to reconcile Esav. And for those of us that don't come from a Jewish background, which is most of us in this room, when we reconcile Esav, we're reconciling part of ourselves. We are him to some degree. So, if you come from the church, we have a place for you, and we'd love to have you. And if you come from Israel, thank you for accepting people like me. Shabbat Shalom.
What a powerful message by Pastor McKeown for us today about the minor stand. We need to get ourselves ready to receive and enter into this fullness. Plus 10, I say plus 10 in those days. And today we are in another day of counting the Omer. And I want you to say with me the blessing for the fourth day as we're entering. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו על ספירת העומר. היום יום רביעי לספירת העומר, שהם 4 ימים. Today is the fourth day for the counting of the Omer. Amen ve'amen. Friends, if you're blessed by those nightly programs, please support it. Operation Kirub, it's the place to go and support. Operation Geulah, it's fantastic. Pray for the Rivka Remnant release in Africa right now, and register to remnant2022.com. We can't wait. If you register, you will get the links. That's our gift for the Chag for you. God bless you, and Chag Sameach, everybody.